On June 15th, 2017, Keith Robinson passed away. He had been a programmer and supervisor in the 1980s for Mattel and developed games for the Intellivision video game console, which rivaled the Atari and the ColecoVision.
The programmers for the Intellivision were collectively known as the Blue Sky Rangers. They kept in touch even well after the console's final demise in the late 80s. Keith, who later became a very successful cartoonist, in particular seemed to maintain a strong passion for the system. And in 1995, the Blue Sky Rangers website was created, and not long after they purchased the full rights to the Intellivision and its games. And in 1997, he founded Intellivision Productions Inc., a company dedicated to the preservation of Intellivision, its history, its games, and making them available for everyone to play. He was a prominent figure in the retro and vintage gaming community, appearing frequently at conventions and in enthusiast projects like RetroWare's The Video Game Years.
So today I thought we should have a more low-key episode and celebrate Keith's life by playing Intellivision Lives, the history of video gaming. This compilation contains 62 Intellivision games and was put out by Intellivision Productions, which was spearheaded by Keith himself.
Unfortunately, the publisher they went with in the PAL region happened to be Play It, a UK-based indie game publisher that is somewhat notorious for their more generic rear cover art and manuals. But on the plus side, we do get an alternate history section and an introduction, probably because the Intellivision was less popular in PAL regions, and a game list, so there's that, I guess. Starting up the game, it's organized into an 80s pizza parlor, complete with jukebox, menu, and a lava lamp. Ooh, pretty. The game's categorized in different arcade machines. But before we go into that, the first thing that will hit you is the theme song. It's just great.
Terrible. Yes, but great.
And it captures within it all of the bad video game songs from the 80s, but in a way that you actually want to listen to. It's about a boy who is looking for his childhood console.
You were my love and my friend. I thought the game would never end. You tore out my heart without anesthesia.
Wait, what?
Behavior that's hard to defend.
Well, imagine it would be, I mean...
How could you put me in this position? I really miss my Intellivision, and now I'm bleeding from this incision. I really want my Intellivision.
I think that's enough of that.
But that's not the only song in the old jukebox. Unlike collections like the Activision Anthology, which licensed period music, Intellivision Lives has an entire original library of Intellivision-themed music. The theme song is the only fully lyrical tune, but my favorite idea is perhaps the IntelliVoice medley.
Hello, Commander. Are you sure? Hello, Commander. More. Hello, Commander.
Oh, hello there!
Before we get into playing some games, I should brief you on how the original Intellivision controlled. It had fixed controllers that had buttons on the side, a metallic disc on the bottom that acted as a D-pad, and a keypad. The keypad was often used just for menus and such, but occasionally it took on more involved roles. Obviously the modern 16-button controller isn't really equipped to emulate that, but they did find a workaround. Pointing the right stick in a direction and tapping R1 activates the relevant button on the keypad, and there's a customized layout for each game that maps the most relevant controls to the face buttons, which is thoughtful. Alternatively, you can hit select at any time, and a representation of the original controller will pop up that you can move around the screen and use the keypad on manually, and see the game's original overlay. Pausing the game will also conveniently show you the controls, and let's face it, that's what you'll be pausing the game to look at half the time anyway.
B-17 Bomber.
Ah, B-17 Bomber. The game that everyone's heard of, but nobody's played. Mostly because of this guy.
B-17 bomber. Alright, the game.
You are the commander and crew of a B-17 over France in 1943. You choose your target and take off, with the computer doing the steering, while you control the pitch, roll and throttle. You also have to man the guns and drop the bombs, as well as keep an eye on the gauges to make sure you're at the right altitude and have enough fuel to get home, rearm, repair, and do it all again until you hit all the targets or crash. I love this game. The IntelliVoice gives you prompts of where the enemies are coming from and when you're over the target, and when something's wrong it calls out a constant mayday, which makes everything really intense. I get the same kind of adrenaline playing this game as I do when I play Ace Combat, and that's impressive. Come to think of it, I'm not sure we've had another World War II bomber sim come out on consoles since this one, making it technically the most advanced console bomber sim ever. I could give this game a whole review all by itself, and it would be a plane, and maybe one day I will, but for now we have some other games we need to get onto. And next up we have Night Stalker. This is a kind of early survival horror game in the vein of the original Wolfenstein, Lugers and all. You're a man, trapped in a maze, with killer robots and paralyzing spiders and bats. You have a gun to defend yourself, but ammo is limited. As your points go up, your enemies are replaced with more and more powerful ones until they can enter your only safe space, the bunker. This game does a lot to create a foreboding atmosphere. When you start up, the scoreboard is blank and dark, with the only music being a constant drone. You can never truly win. You just increase your score until you are overwhelmed. A cool thing they did for the Intellivision release is they added rumble when you get hit, the original Intellivision of course not having any. Overall, another great game. Like Buzz Bombers, developed as an answer to Centipede, I feel that it more closely resembles some kind of advanced Space Invaders. You're a spray can shooting bees to turn them into honeycomb that's eaten by a hummingbird to get points. You're spraying the bees to stop them from pollinating the flowers, which will trap you in and limit your movement, increasing the tension as you are boxed in more and more. And in the later levels, faster bees are introduced to increase difficulty. Also, is it just me or is it a bit weird that we're fighting to stop pretty flowers growing? Regardless, this game is really well made, with smooth controls, good visuals, and even some cutscenes. Fans of Space Invaders will enjoy this one. Speaking of, let's try out the version of Space Invaders touted on the cover. It's not an arcade anywhere. It's not in space either. But wait, wasn't there a Space Invader on the cover? Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Well played, play it. It turns out that this game does have Space Invaders, albeit an unlicensed, though not illegal, clone from back in the day called Space Armada. And that's where the cover image is from. Well, on my copy at least, this version of the cover is exclusive to the PAL release. America had this much nicer one with a picture of the console surrounded by games, which I like much more. So why did we get this one?
But my bet is that it was the publisher that made the decision. I mean, when you think of an old video game, what's the first game you think of?
Space Invaders.
Yeah, that's right, Space Invaders. So what I think they did it... Wait? What are you doing here?
I heard that you were playing Intellivision games. I wanted to join in.
You just let yourself into my house and...
Yeah.
Okay then.
Space Invaders, alongside Pac-Man, is the poster child of vintage arcade gaming. While the Intellivision is pretty obscure, everyone knows the Space Invader. Play It probably thought that by slapping something that looked close enough on the front, it would see an increase in sales. For the record, Space Armada is a relatively competent Space Invaders clone. At least it's better than the 2600 version, but it's not as smooth as the arcade version because the ship moves in intervals of more than 1 pixel at a time, making it feel a little too jerky, and also the speed of the Space Invaders doesn't change as the level goes on.
Well, who needs Space Invaders when you've got Astro Smash? Long story short, asteroids and spinning things are crashing into the Earth's surface and you're controlling a spaceship?
Well, the instruction manual says it's a laser battery, but with these games you really need to learn to sort of use your imagination. You get a new life for every 1,000 points you get, and you lose points every time you die. Once you run out of lives, game's over. Simple.
In addition, you'll lose a life should any of the satellites make it through to hit the surface.
I don't know, maybe they're nukes or something and they irradiate the land. The game gets pretty addicting, even more so than something like Space Invaders, because it's not quite as hard as any of these games. 1,000 points is pretty easy to get to, at least early on, so you're constantly accumulating more lives for the harder sections. This feeds more into the whole one more play mentality and keeps you going.
Astro Smash is one of the many games that has a special challenge to complete. On these games, if you get a high enough score, you can unlock special bonuses like original Intellivision commercials and archival footage.
Unfortunately, I can't quite get enough points to beat the goal. My record's only about 18,000, but I don't know, I'll keep trying, maybe one day I'll get it.
Is 50,000 enough?
Have you played this game before?
No.
Okay then.
Okay, let's move on to the next game, Frogbog. This one is an Intellivision classic. Well, it was also on the 2600 as Frogs and Flies, but this version is better. Game's pretty simple. You're in a bog, and you are a frog. A hungry frog. There's a mode for both playing against an AI and 2-player, with some handicap options for the human players. The winner is the one to eat the most flies. This is gaming at its most simple. The tongue deploys automatically on the lowest difficulty, but there are options to do it manually, as well as a choice between fixed and variable jump arcs, which act as a sort of difficulty level, making it pretty accessible to new players, but also providing a challenge for those more advanced.
Like me?
Okay, game's over, and I've won with 315 points. Ha! Suck it, Wade!
That one sucks. No wonder it's in kids. The jumping and, well, tonguing just feels so floaty and imprecise to me.
Well, you gotta remember, Wade, this came out in the 1980s. Yeah, it's a bit clunky, but still, there's a charm to it. Anyway, on to the next game.
Sharp Shot was a multi-cart which had 4 vaguely shooting-based games on it, all of which are 2-player only. After choosing a multi-cart, you need to select the number of the game you want on the keypad and the game will start. Let's try Space Gunner. This one's really simple, just press the fire button at the moment the ship flies into your crosshair. The winner is the one who gets the most. And let's not ignore that flashing pastel star system in the background.
I guess you can't quite spam it because you still have to time the shot because it takes some time to reach it.
I don't know, there's something about a shooting game where you can't even move your crosshair that makes it seem like more luck than skill.
Well, I think what it is, Wade, is more of a reaction time game. You gotta know the timing and get it at just the right moment. But I will agree, yeah, it is kind of bland. Let's see what the next one is.
A cool feature of the Intellivision's keypad is that it's wired up, kind of like the difficulty or game select switches on Ataris and Pong clones. So if you want to start playing a different game on the multicart, you can just press the button and it instantly switches. Nifty.
Let's try Submarine. Okay, so in this one, we're shooting torpedoes out from a submarine to take down various ships. Again, it's just kind of timing based, you can't actually control the submarine just when the torpedo fires.
Correction, you are shooting down submarines. The multiplayer is one after another, kind of like Mario Brothers, and you compete for high score. I actually like this one a bit more. It's much more satisfying to be able to aim at your targets, and the ships dart around, changing speed and direction, demanding a high level of strategy and engagement. This one's well worth the play.
Not all of the multicarts were the same. Triple Action was a cartridge where originally the 3 games, racing cars, battle tanks and biplanes, were chosen from on-screen options after boot up, rather than by pressing a specific button on the keypad. And because the 3 games were such different genres, they were split up here into 3 separate entries. So here we have biplanes.
So basically, take off with L1, then hit up and down to control your elevation, and try and shoot the other person down. Every so often, the balloon will go up, which you can shoot for bonus points. Unfortunately for me, I'm much more used to inverted flight control these days, so pressing down will just send you straight into the ground immediately.
I found the controls just fine because I'm not used to inverted.
If you gain altitude, you'll slow down until you eventually stall and crash. And once you do stall, it's almost impossible to recover. But by going down, you can gain a bit more speed. So it's all about controlling the angle of elevation so you don't fall out of the sky. But you can also do a loop-de-loop. The winner is whoever has the highest score at the end.
I really like this game. Smooth controls, solid premise, it's just pure vintage console fun. And also it's got the Racing cars is exactly what it says on the tin. Avoid the cars and the first to reach 100 miles wins. And also your car windows look like a dapper gentleman. Oh yes. How's this for background music?
This one's really fun in its simplicity, and it can get pretty suspenseful. It starts out easy, but cars get more aggressive as you go, making it difficult to stay alive for long periods, and it gets pretty intense when you're neck and neck and you don't know who is going to overtake who. But I am going to say those glitches are unforgivable.
Glitches? What glitches? Well, let me explain. Every time I'd played this game previously, the background would glitch out, changing color and covering parts of the game screen, including the score. I just assumed this is how the original game was, but when I looked up footage of it to confirm that, I couldn't find the glitch anywhere, either in the original copy or in footage of Intellivision Lives. So I went back to my copy of the game to try it again, and I couldn't get the glitch to work. I did happen to record the glitch though while originally recording for this video, but that's the last time I've ever been able to get it to appear. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, let's keep moving. Thunder Castle, I love this one. You're a knight competing for naught but glory and treasure against dragons, sorcerers and demons. You run around ever-changing mazes, dodging monsters and picking up items with fabulous secret powers. Finding a grail or touching an animal like a bat, a mouse or a skull will energize you so you can take out the evil guardians, as they're called, making this about the only game where touching one of these is a power-up. Other randomly spawning items give you other effects too, but one to watch out for is the comb, which will cut your score in half.
Look dude, I was fine with the Japanese cards. I tolerated the Dragon Sky. I even let you use the Tazo because they counted as cards in primary school, but I draw the line at a comb cutting my life points in half. Can I at least use my Darkly Big Rabbi?
What's also cool is that when playing two-player one after another mode, the second player will actually get a different maze for each level, which is a cool bit of extra effort.
It really is a love-hate relationship with this game.
What do you love?
Finally, one of these games having background music. I've been waiting for that. It does have a good sense of strategy and also a lot of suspense. You never know how the mazes are going to change, what items are going to appear, how the mythical creatures and the guardians are going to line up. It all makes for a constant, ever-changing source of fun. At the same time, my god, the controls are clunky. A lot of the times I found myself holding down one directional button, but my guy was going like another direction. And sometimes you can get caught in the side of the bushes or the changing walls with absolutely no warning that they are going to appear or reappear.
Well, this game's movement does kind of work on Pac-Man rules. If you press a different direction while you're going down a pathway, it will keep going down the pathway until you hit a point where you can change that direction. But at the same time, it does feel a little smushy. I kind of see it like the Resident Evil tank controls. They just work to heighten the tension because you don't have as much control over your character as you like, and it makes the game more tense. This game would have been the Zelda of its day, a big adventure game spanning 9 levels where you gotta take down bosses.
Out of all the games we look at today, this one's my second favorite behind B17, but it's a close second. So now on to some sports titles with tennis. In theory, it's pretty straightforward, but in practice, everything just moves around too slowly to be satisfying. Managing to actually do something is cause for celebration. Come on. I just want to hit the ball. What's the timing on this? I can't work it out.
You know, to be honest, I'd rather be playing Pong. Ah, I missed it again.
This is the least amount of effort I've ever had to go through to win a game.
Hey, we got it. What's happening? Hey, something happened. Oh, we returned to service. Oh, it's a rally. We did it. We got a rally going.
Yeah, okay, we might be exaggerating this a bit. Maybe give it a miss, and instead play this next one, Shark Shark. You start as a little fish and eat other fish to become bigger fish, including your opponent. Watch out for the shark though, who can eat you no matter what size you are. But if you're feeling lucky, you can nibble on her tail for some extra points. The game is pretty fun, but one problem is, if one player dies, they won't respawn until the other player dies as well, leading to some long wait times.
Gee, that worked for you, didn't it?
There's no music, and it can get pretty boring if you're the first one to get killed.
But fantastic if you're not.
Yes.
But once again, overall, this game really stands up. Also, I can't talk about this game without doing this at least at some point.
Hello.
Oh, hello there!
So those are our top picks for Intellivision Lives, and there are so many more, but it would take just too long to go over all the good stuff. But I must stress that this collection is more than just the games. It's a celebration of vintage gaming history. It's got all the standard extras you'd expect from compilations of the era. A couple goofy video modes, original box art picks, high score unlock challenges, that sort of thing. And while the presentation is perhaps a little subpar compared with its contemporaries, there's so much extra effort that was put into where it matters. Every single game has a description attached talking about the development process and crediting who made it, along with the occasional tidbit of history. Also included are a number of unreleased and prototype games, including the store demo cartridge. And as you travel around the pizza parlor, there are 2 photos of Blue Sky Rangers, which are a short documentary about the Intellivision's history and a collection of interviews with original programmers, including this guy who looks like Egon from the Ghostbusters if he was a bit of a hippie. And finally, let's just come back to that soundtrack again, and here's where I'm going to start using my creative arts degree. I mean, have to at some point. As a song on its own, it's pretty terrible, but I personally argue that you can't really judge a song on its own, especially in this case, because you experience it within the context of the game. Yes, its lyrics sound like high school poetry. Yes, the singing quality sounds like something that was posted to YouTube in 2007, and the beat is 30-year-old cheddar, but frankly, that's perfect. This game is not a blockbuster, and it knows it, so the creators embraced the fact that they were the oddball. A normal, low-carb, low-fat, saccharin-laden song like Infogram's Imagination wasn't going to do it. It needed a statement. The Blue Sky Rangers knew this. They were a tight-knit group that made the Intellivision, and couldn't bear to see it go. I highly recommend watching a video I'm linking in the description of some of the pranks they pulled in the office, all the way up until the very last day. They just look like game makers having the most fun you could have, and that's what they did with this song. The melodic style combined with the use of Intellivision sound effects attempts to transport the listener back to the early 80s, specifically into the video game culture of the time, which was also known for its terrible video game songs, and the extreme lyrics act as a parody of this era, while at the same time celebrating the Intellivision for its quirkiness. The song is about a man who's trying to find his childhood Intellivision because he's nostalgic, and at the end of the song, it's revealed
My mother sold mine in a garage sale. Pity.
I mean, who watching this video can't relate to that in some way? A childhood video game or console being lost and never being able to get it back. I'm lucky that I've managed to keep hold of quite a few of my original childhood games, but there are a couple I'll know I'll never get back the originals of, and all you can say is pity.
This game doesn't just celebrate the Intellivision, but nostalgia itself.
Okay,
and
you're getting too worked up here, man.
Okay, maybe I am.
Okay, well, either way, it's getting late. Gotta run.
Oh, okay, see ya.
Adios.
Wait, how did you get here in the... Weird. This video has been a tribute to the work and passion of Keith Robinson, without whom this collection, among many other things, would have never existed. And Keith, although you may no longer be with us, Intellivision lives. You may be wondering why I care so much about all this, and it's a bit funny, really. It occurs to me that I haven't revealed to you guys what my full real name is yet. See you next time, guys.
Well, guess that's about everything. You know, it's kind of sad here, last day of Mattel, but you know, it really shouldn't be. Mattel isn't dead, as long as it lives on in our hearts. You know, we really built up a family here, some close ties, and that's something that can last forever. I mean, something like that, that spirit, you just can't throw that out.
We are closed now.